I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm not on animation. I know that's what you came here for. And you're probably thinking, who is this? Who am I? Well, I'm Jim, and I'm here to tell you about why I think Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the most important games of the generation. And you might disagree with me, but stick around for the next 8 minutes and you might change your mind. Or not. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm getting paid either way, so f*** you.
What happens when you mash Far Cry with Pixar's Brave and set it in Jurassic Park? Well, this, kind of. On paper, Horizon Zero Dawn reads like a greatest hits package of 2010s gaming and pop culture. When it was first announced at a time when it seemed like every new video game had to feature a bow and arrow, many of us wrote it off as something destined to be an also-ran. A game which might set hearts palpitating on a subreddit of die-hard PlayStation fans, but that the rest of us would scarcely need to bother with.
I'll be on my way.
This, of course, turned out to be completely wrong. Horizon is fantastic. It's made one hell of a splash for critics and looks set to do extremely well despite going toe-to-toe with a new Zelda and a new Mass Effect in the same month. But then, going toe-to-toe with giants and beating the odds is what Horizon is all about. The fact that it exists at all is something of a minor miracle. That it's enjoying so much acclaim is astounding when you cast your mind back to its announcement at E3 2015, when all the buzz that year was about megaton drops like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Shenmue 3. Do you remember that? Remember when there was buzz about Shenmue 3 instead of deafening ennui? You know, they say the past's a different country, but that's a different f***ing solar system. Anyway, look, Horizon's brilliant and it's gorgeous, and it might just be the best new IP to come from Sony in decades. So why was everyone so reluctant to get hyped for it until now? Well, it might have been because up until E3 2015, the developers, Guerilla Games, were known only for one thing: Killzone. It's not like that's a particularly bad thing. Being responsible for a flagship console-exclusive first-person shooter is nothing to sniff at. Unless it's the one that isn't Halo. And Killzone isn't Halo. And that basic truth about Killzone, the fact that it isn't Halo, Halo is a thing and Killzone isn't it, kinda became the running joke about Killzone.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
Now that's not ideal, and it's astoundingly unfair. There's as many things that aren't Halo in the universe as there are atoms in the universe. I mean, the sheer cosmic significance of being the one thing in the universe for which it is a problem to not be Halo is enormous. Killzone doesn't get enough credit for that. Once hilariously touted as Sony's Halo killer, Killzone's lot in life was set in stone. The studio would spend the next decade making games that weren't Halo, and being the not Halo studio might impress those weird guys with the bad hygiene in the PlayStation subreddit, but it doesn't curry much favour with anyone else. And look, it's actually quite a shame. The Killzone games aren't secretly amazing or anything like that, but what the Killzone series did do secretly is showcase Guerrilla's incredible talent for world building. The Killzone universe depicts a human civilization of the far future, that's split into two genetically diverse factions and done a war. Which is the sort of stupid thing human civilization does when you don't keep an eye on it. Killzone Shadowfall, the last game in the series and a launch title for the PS4, has a number of incredible levels depicting the cities of Vecta and New Helghast. Two vastly different locations which are sandwiched together and separated by a wall. You spend the game firefighting your way through locations which feel anchored in reality. There's apartments and slums and gleaming office blocks, all filled with the detritus of human existence. You know, furniture and gadgets and crisp packets and all that. With the combination of an expansive science fiction lore and environments which pay attention to the micro detail of life, the world of Killzone Shadowfall feels tangible and tantalisingly explorable. On that front, it's a seriously impressive game, but it's all theatre. The environments are just staging grounds for firefights, so you don't really get a chance to explore them. But it does show off Guerrilla's knack for building believable worlds. So it comes as no surprise then that their next game would exploit that signature standout world-building ability and apply it to a land that's open and fully explorable. Horizon feels like Guerrilla with the gloves off, a studio which, after spending years messing around with a string of 7 out of 10 shooting games that aren't Halo, finally gets to breathe, to stretch its legs, to unfurl its wings and various other biological metaphors. Horizon Zero Dawn is by far the best game they've ever released, and despite being completely at odds with the linear, macho power fantasies they've done previously, their talent for weaving worlds out of ideas is on full display, depicting a matriarchal, nature-worshipping society that has sprung up from the ashes of the cold and ill-fated technocracy that it always feels like we're a few years away from, but that never seems to arrive. And this isn't an especially unique idea for a post-apocalyptic society, to imagine that the humans who follow would develop a robust theology from the harsh lessons learnt when civilization ended at the hands of men with telephones and nuclear warheads. But Guerrilla have gone all in on the execution. They've made the lore integral to the main character's backstory, so as you're learning about the world, you're learning about her. When sufficiently topped off with generous helpings of Mad Max mysticism and comic book melodrama, the complexity or originality of the concept ceases to matter. It's just good and highly absorbing. It's a world which you relish discovering alongside Aloy, who is, in another Guerilla Games first, a wonderful character to spend time with. Which is surprising considering her upbringing. That's Aloy there. No, the big guy, the baby. The big guy's sort of her dad, who apparently went to the same parenting school as Michael Jackson. I don't know why he's holding the baby over a cliff. I'm guessing Spotify's been down for centuries, so this is the only way they can entice Elton John to play a christening. Anyway, listen, Aloy's quite a special lead for a video game. She isn't superhuman, she isn't simply a conduit through which she kills things, although she doesn't shy away from that role, and she isn't there for you to masturbate to, apologies to Reddit. In fact, she spends most of her time in constant danger. Hunting animals, real and robotic, is her lifeblood. But it's not easy, and even when you've taken out entire packs of robot dogs with her 1,000 times, she never feels completely in control of the situation. Far removed from the ballistic bravado of a shooting game, Horizon Zero Dawn explores her fragility and vulnerability as a flesh and blood human being facing endless threats, not just to her body, but to her mental state. Aloy is shunned and disliked by other humans, starting the game as an outcast and having to work much harder than everyone else just to be barely tolerated by society. You can see why they didn't need a colon in the title, because everyone in the game's an art. This is not really Killzone or Far Cry or Jurassic Park, but it works, and stupendously so, as the basis for building a gorgeous fantasy land inhabited by robot dinosaurs. The kind of fundamentally and wonderfully daft idea that's often found in the minds of small children. I don't mean that disparagingly, I mean that as one of the highest compliments it's possible to give to a fantasy imagined by grown-ups, whose concern in these matters is usually limited to doing pretend wars based on real ones. Horizon Zero Dawn has been there for years. We've sneaked the odd glimpse of it while we were gunning down the Hellgast. It was just around those corners that were blocked off, hiding under the beds of all those Vecton apartment blocks. I think it does Guerrilla a big disservice to wonder how the hell they pulled this off, instead of wondering why it took them so long. From one of E3 2015's also-rans to one of 2017's most important games, it's been quite a journey.
Once outcast, and now brave.
And who gives a f*** about Halo now? Exactly. See ya.